You know, if you look at an antique mechanical pocket watch, there is a beautiful simplicity to it. You have
Absolutely.
these tiny gears clicking
Yeah.
together, right? And they're perfectly isolated inside this little glass and metal case. It is completely self-contained.
Yeah, it's a closed loop.
Exactly. You drop the watch, the glass shatters, the gears start turning, the cause and effect are just right there in front of you.
Right.
But, I mean, the world you and I are navigating today is absolute no thing like that watch. It's much more like a global nervous system.
That's a great way to put it.
You stub your toe in one hemisphere, and a completely different part of the world feels the pain in milliseconds. So today, we are macking that nervous system. Whether you are prepping for a high-stakes strategy meeting, trying to catch up on macro trends, or you are just insanely curious about how the world actually connects, our mission today is to cut through the information overload for you.
Yeah, we are taking the source material you shared with us,
Yeah.
specifically the July 13th, 2026 morning briefing, and really looking at the invisible wires connecting everything.
Right.
We're going to examine how a physical geopolitical crisis in the ocean immediately rewrites the digital algorithms running the global economy.
Which is just wild to think about.
It is, and how massive technological wars between trillion-dollar companies land right on the desks of local school districts. The boundaries between the physical world and the digital world have just, well, they've completely dissolved.
Okay, let's unpack this because starting with that intersection of physical geography and the digital web is key. A physical crisis today doesn't just disrupt physical supply chains, you know.
Yeah.
It threatens the invisible digital infrastructure we all rely on.
Exactly.
The briefing outlines a highly volatile situation in the Middle East between the United States and Iran. And just to be crystal clear to you listening, we are simply reporting the facts from the briefing here without taking any political sides.
Right, just the facts.
The facts are that both the U.S. and Iran are currently claiming control over the Strait of Hormuz following a third weekend of heavy strikes. Officials are technically describing a ceasefire as being in place, but the reality on the water is that strikes are continuing.
And you see the immediate panic reflected in energy markets right away. I mean, crude prices are surging, global stock markets are taking a hit, and government bond yields are rising in response to the instability.
Yeah.
The traditional view of the Strait of Hormuz is that it's the ultimate bottleneck for the world's seaborne oil.
Right, and I used to think of it like the neck of an hourglass for crude oil, but the more I read this briefing, the more I realize that is kind of a flawed analogy.
Oh, so
Well, the internet doesn't trickle through a bottleneck like sand. The strait is actually more like the spinal cord of the regional internet.
Oh, that is the perfect way to frame it.
Yeah.
Because the strait sits directly on top of this dense, incredibly vital web of undersea fiber optic cables.
Right.
So instability in the water above doesn't just delay oil tankers, it physically threatens the global data roads down below. If an anchor drags during an evasive maneuver or a depth charge goes off, you aren't just slowing down ships.
You're cutting off the data.
You are instantly paralyzing data transmission. And that severs the shipping tracking systems and throws off the highly complex real-time insurance algorithms.
Wow.
Yeah, these algorithms are trying to calculate and price shipping risk in the middle of a kinetic conflict zone. It's chaos.
And that triggers this incredible chain reaction back home. The physical conflict drives an energy shock, right? And surging oil prices suddenly accelerate the urgent need for investment in domestic power and grid technology.
Absolutely.
And the single hungriest new consumer of that domestic power grid happens to be AI data centers. So a geopolitical clash in the Strait of Hormuz literally reshapes the digital infrastructure budget and data center expansion plans in the American Midwest.
It's all connected. And, we are seeing this absolute reliance on digital tools play out in real-world physical tragedies, too.
Right. The briefing mentioned a couple of major ones.
Yeah, it covers severe flooding across northern China, specifically in the Hebei and Liaoning provinces, where entire highway systems and vehicles are just submerged. And then it also details a devastating explosive fire at a popular pub in northern Bangkok.
That one was awful. 27 people killed.
27 killed and over 20 others injured. Two incredibly different, devastating physical events. Yet the response and the investigation for both are entirely driven by modern technology.
Wait, how exactly are they using tech for the floods? Like, beyond just basic weather radar?
In China, authorities aren't just reacting to rising water. They're using AI-driven weather modeling and these vast, interconnected sensor networks to predict the crests.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they feed historical flood data, real-time satellite imagery, and topography into machine learning models to simulate exactly where the water will go next.
So they know where it's going before it gets there.
Exactly. This allows them to preemptively route emergency rescue operations to specific villages before the water even reaches them.
That's incredible. And in Bangkok, the Thai police are investigating possible negligence regarding building exits and electrical systems and flammable decor. I was reading about how they reconstruct the timeline, and it is fascinating. A burnt building is basically a digital crime scene now.
Yeah, investigators don't just sift through ashes anymore. They are relying on digital forensics to build a virtual twin of the disaster.
A virtual twin.
Yeah. They pull telemetry data from the victims' phones to see exactly where the crowd bottlenecks formed. They analyze the pings from networked smoke alarms and smart thermostats to measure the exact spread and temperature of the fire down to the millisecond.
That's just mind-blowing. They can track the temperature from a thermostat ping.
Right, and by combining that with recovered security footage, they can definitively prove whether a locked exit door or an unauthorized pyrotechnic display caused the fatalities. The physical investigation is entirely constructed from digital sensors.
Which means the tools we use to manage global infrastructure, to govern our power grids, and literally to save lives are all AI-driven. Whoever controls the AI and the underlying hardware holds immense power. Which perfectly transitions into the corporate and geopolitical tech battles dominating the middle of this briefing. We have Apple suing OpenAI and 2 former Apple employees over alleged trade secret theft tied to Apple's hardware and AI work.
A lawsuit that really exposes the extreme volatility of tech partnerships right now.
Hold on, that doesn't make sense to me. Just last month, we were talking about Apple integrating ChatGPT into the iPhone's operating system.
Right.
How do you partner with a company to build your flagship software features while simultaneously dragging them into federal court for stealing your secrets?
You do it because the alliances in the tech world are marriages of pure convenience. They're built on top of a desperate war for talent.
Ah, so it's about the engineers.
Exactly. There is an incredibly small pool of top-tier AI engineers in the world who actually possess the deep mathematical intuition required to build and optimize neural networks.
So everyone is fighting over the same few people.
Yes. These few hundred people are constantly moving between rival firms. Apple and OpenAI might need each other commercially to use cell phones and subscriptions today, but Apple will absolutely take OpenAI to court if they believe departing employees are draining proprietary foundational hardware designs to a competitor.
They know the talent is the bottleneck.
The companies realize the human beings inside their walls hold the keys to the future.
And, that intense protectionism over technology isn't just happening between corporations in Silicon Valley. It is happening on a macro scale between superpowers.
Oh, big time.
China is reportedly weighing what they call a silicon curtain around its domestic AI technology. They are drafting new controls that would strictly limit how their most capable open-source AI models and advanced chips flow abroad.
Yeah.
And again, keeping this strictly neutral and based on the facts in the briefing, this mirrors the export restrictions that Washington has already placed on advanced American semiconductor chips.
It represents a massive escalation in the broader tech rivalry. The supply chains for both the physical hardware and the digital software of AI are being actively weaponized.
Weaponized!
But regulating software is entirely different from regulating physical chips. An open-source AI model is just code.
Right, you can't just stop a ship full of code at the border.
Exactly. Once it is released onto the internet, anyone can download it, modify it, and run it locally. By attempting to put a silicon curtain around open-source models, Beijing is trying to figure out how to stop data and mathematical weights from crossing digital borders, which is technically incredibly difficult to enforce.
But restricting the chips and the code is only half the battle, right? If you want to control AI, you have to control its diet, the actual data it learns from. And right now, the people who own that data are going to war. Publishers, led by the New York Times, are aggressively pursuing their copyright trial against OpenAI. They are accusing OpenAI of deliberately hiding evidence, specifically the tools and data sets that could actually identify the copyrighted journalism hiding inside ChatGPT's training data.
This raises an important question. How far do AI companies have to go to open up their black boxes?
Right.
The AI developers argue that their training algorithms and the exact compilation of their data sets are highly proprietary trade secrets.
But the publishers don't buy that.
Not at all.
Yeah.
The publishers are countering with a very simple argument. You cannot claim something is a protected secret if it is built entirely on our stolen copyrighted work.
Wow. Yeah, that's a strong point.
This trial isn't just about cutting a settlement check to a newspaper. The legal precedent set here will define the foundational rules for how every single future AI model is legally allowed to learn about the world.
So, what does this all mean for the rest of us? We have superpowers building silicon curtains, trillion-dollar companies simultaneously partnering and suing each other, and massive legal battles over the fundamental training data of the internet.
It's a lot.
It feels like these massive high-altitude battles are just raining chaos down on local communities.
They really are. And that chaos inevitably forces local regulators, city councils, and school districts to step in and act as the adults in the room, managing the fallout on the ground.
Like with New York City schools, right?
Right.
The largest school district in the country serving 1 million students.
Exactly.
Chancellor Kumar Samuels just abruptly halted all new tech purchases for a top-to-bottom review. Initially, I thought, isn't hitting the brakes in a district that huge going to leave students behind?
It seems like it would.
Yeah, 1 million kids missing out on the newest educational tech while the district administration does paperwork.
I mean, it is easy to see it as bureaucratic red tape, but it is actually a vital structural reset. Think about what New York City is doing here. By freezing purchases, they are essentially refusing to let their million students act as non-consenting data testers for tech companies' aggressive data scraping.
Oh, I see.
They're looking at the Apple and OpenAI lawsuit, they were looking at the copyright battles, and they are realizing the ed tech vendor they sign a 5-year contract with today might change its privacy terms, get sued out of existence, or pivot its entire business model tomorrow.
So it is about avoiding vendor lock-in and protecting student data.
Precisely. Flexible, portable software choices are infinitely better than being trapped in a proprietary ecosystem that suddenly decides to use your students' essays to train its next model.
Yeah, that would be a nightmare.
New York City is drawing a massive line in the sand for digital privacy, and because of their size, every other district in the country watches what they do.
And we are seeing state governments try to build guardrails too. The Illinois State Board of Education just released statewide guidance for K-12 on artificial intelligence.
Yes.
They are giving local districts a concrete framework for classroom use, data privacy, and academic integrity.
Which is crucial, because without that state-level intervention, you end up with a wildly unequal landscape.
How so?
Well, an affluent, well-resourced district might have the legal team to write a comprehensive AI policy. An under-resourced district does not, which leads to a chaotic free-for-all where every individual teacher is forced to improvise their own rules about what software is safe for kids to use.
That makes total sense. A statewide framework prevents that fragmentation.
Right.
And the push to get ahead of this technology is hitting the financial sector as well. Over in the UK, a senior official at the Financial Conduct Authority stated that Britain needs to urgently review whether large language models like ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini need to be regulated directly by financial authorities.
Because they recognize that trying to retroactively apply old sector-by-sector financial laws to a rapidly evolving technology is a losing game.
Now, the tech just moves too fast.
Exactly. Large language models are already being woven into the fabric of global finance. If an AI model hallucinates or makes a critical error while drafting a legal contract or executing a high-frequency algorithmic trade, the cascading financial damage could be catastrophic.
It would be an instant disaster.
The UK wants to regulate the models themselves before that harm occurs.
But here's the terrifying reality. While governments, financial regulators, and school districts are busy debating AI policies and freezing their tech budgets to do reviews.
The bad guys are not waiting.
Exactly. The bad guys are not waiting for the paperwork to clear. Attackers are quietly slipping through the back doors of the everyday systems we are already relying on. The U.S. and 8 allied countries just issued a joint urgent warning that Russian state-backed hackers are actively targeting critical infrastructure.
Yeah.
We are talking about utilities, transportation networks, and essential municipal services.
The threat landscape right now is operating at a blistering speed.
To give you a sense of that speed, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, flagged 2 maximum severity zero-day flaws in Joomla add-ons.
Right, the Agenda and Balboa forms extensions.
Yeah. And for anyone unfamiliar, a zero-day flaw means the software developers had 0 days notice to fix the vulnerability before hackers started actively exploiting it. There's no grace period.
None.
And on the exact same day, Australia warned of an automated mass scanning campaign hunting for these vulnerable content management systems globally.
Because these attackers aren't manually typing in web addresses looking for victims.
No.
No, they use automated scripts to scan millions of servers across the globe simultaneously. If you run a vulnerable version of Joomla, WordPress, or any similar content management system, they will find you within hours of the vulnerability being disclosed.
Wows.
Yeah. If you manage a network for an organization or a school, the takeaway here is that speed in patching matters infinitely more than the convenience of scheduled maintenance windows. You have to patch immediately.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. And honestly, deeply unsettling. It is not just about patching old software flaws anymore. The very way we verify our identities is under attack.
This is the evil jinx stuff.
Yes. Researchers just found an exposed server that revealed 3 separate phishing operations using something called the Evil Jinx Toolkit. And they are specifically targeting Microsoft 365 accounts, which run the emails and documents for thousands of schools and businesses.
This represents a terrifying shift in the mechanics of cyber attacks. I mean, for the last decade, security professionals have drilled 2 things into our heads. Use a strong password and turn on multi-factor authentication, or MFA.
Right, the text code.
Exactly. You type your password, you get a text message or a push notification on your phone, you approve it, and you are in. But these adversary-in-the-middle attacks using Evil Jinx don't care about your password at all.
Wait, how do they compromise an account without stealing the password or the MFA code?
They steal your live session token.
Okay, what is that?
Let's use an analogy.
Yeah.
Imagine you are going to a sold-out concert. You wait in line, you show your physical ticket at the door, and the security guard checks it.
Simple enough.
Once you are inside, they stamp your hand with invisible ink so you can go to the restroom and come back in without having to dig out your ticket again. Your password and your MFA app are the physical ticket at the door. The live session token is the stamp on your hand.
Okay, follow that.
So these attackers set up a fake Microsoft login page that looks identical to the real thing, and it sits invisibly between you and the actual Microsoft server. You type your password into the fake page, you approve the MFA prompt on your phone.
Just like normal.
Right. And the attacker server silently passes all of that to the real Microsoft site. Microsoft says, great, identity verified, and sends the digital hand stamp, the session token, back to your computer so you stay logged in. But the attacker intercepts that hand stamp.
Yeah.
Now, they don't need your password. They don't need your phone. They just show Microsoft the stolen hand stamp, and the system lets them right into your email inbox, bypassing your basic MFA entirely.
That is incredibly sophisticated. So basic multi-factor authentication suddenly isn't the silver bullet we thought it was.
It is not, which is why organizations have to raise the bar. You defeat this by using conditional access rules, where the system notices that your hand stamp is suddenly being used from a laptop in a different country 10 seconds later and blocks it.
Okay.
Or you move to phishing-resistant sign-in methods like passkeys, which mathematically tie the login session to the physical device you are holding, making it impossible for a remote attacker to intercept a usable token.
It is a heavy, urgent warning for IT departments everywhere. But alongside all these geopolitical clashes, the copyright lawsuits, and the sophisticated cyber threats, there is the culture stream.
Ah, yes.
We always like to look at what everyday people are actually talking about on their social feeds today.
The contrast between the macro news and the digital water cooler is always fascinating.
Totally. Because while analysts are debating session tokens and zero-day flaws, the internet is absolutely buzzing about the World Cup semifinal.
Oh yeah, massive game.
Huge. We have a massive clash at AT&T Stadium in Dallas. Kylian Mbappe leading France versus the teenage phenom Lamine Yamal leading Spain. It is the classic narrative of the seasoned superstar against the rising prodigy, capturing this huge generational shift in global sports.
And right next to that on the trending list is the intense debate over OpenAI's newly released GPT 5.6 rollout.
Which, was briefly delayed over U.S. government concerns, but now that it is out, developers are arguing online over what capabilities are actually new versus what is just an incremental tweak.
Yeah, people are getting picky.
It really highlights the fatigue in the AI hype cycle. People are no longer easily impressed by a slightly faster chatbot. They want to see the actual return on investment and genuine leaps in reasoning.
The novelty phase is definitely over.
For sure. And then you get the truly bizarre stuff that captures the public imagination simply because it is so weird.
The Singapore straw case.
Yes, the Singapore straw case. A French teenager is facing court because he filmed himself licking a straw from a vending machine and putting it back.
Ugh.
Right. But because Singapore has famously strict laws, this incredibly odd, gross tourist behavior has sparked a massive global online debate. You have millions of people arguing about public health etiquette, viral outrage mechanics, and the reach of local laws over foreign tourists. It's the kind of strange, localized incident that the internet elevates into a global philosophical debate.
It highlights how interconnected our attention is. I mean, a teenager does something foolish in a subway station in Singapore, and millions of people across the globe spend their afternoon debating the legal ramifications and cultural norms,
Well, amidst all that noise, the briefing deliberately pauses to highlight something else.
which I loved.
Yeah, the quiet background progress happening in the world. They point out the world's greatest forest recovery, a massive landscape slowly coming back to life after decades of environmental
That's
loss.
amazing.
And they detail a highly promising new screening test for womb cancer, and they highlight fresh environmental progress taking root in Estonia.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, these are the stories that rarely announce themselves in the blaring red alert headlines.
True.
Human beings are biologically wired to pay attention to sudden, loud threats. The missile strikes, the server hacks, the zero-day flaws. But real progress is almost never sudden, is the slow, patient work of healing.
Yeah.
It quietly compounds over time, driven by thousands of scientists, conservationists, and everyday people simply showing up day after day to make one corner of the world just a little bit better.
It is the patient work that actually endures, which perfectly sets up the final story from the briefing, and it provides this beautiful contrast to all the cutting-edge technology we have been discussing today.
It really does.
Archaeologists digging near Hadrian's Wall in northern England just unearthed a 1,600-year-old Roman statue. It is a stone figure of a genius, which was considered a guardian spirit. And based on how it was positioned, experts determined it was deliberately placed in the ground as a kind of good luck charm by the people living on that ancient, heavily fortified frontier.
There's a profound, timeless humanity to that discovery. Think about what it meant to live on the very edge of the Roman Empire 1,600 years ago.
It had to be terrifying.
It was an era of immense uncertainty, of shifting, violent borders, and constant existential threats. That sounds familiar.
Yeah, fair.
Amidst all of that chaos, someone took the time to carefully carve and bury a small stone token of hope, to just reach out for a little bit of luck and meaning in a scary world. The fact that this small human gesture is surfacing right now in our own deeply uncertain, hyper-connected modern moment is incredibly moving. The massive empires fade, the geopolitical conflicts pass, but these small, fundamentally human desires for safety and luck endure.
It really is a perfect note to end on. And it leaves me with this final thought for you to ponder. We started this deep dive talking about how the world is no longer an isolated mechanical watch, but a highly sensitive, globally connected digital nervous system.
Right.
If a Roman citizen buried a stone genius for luck 1,600 years ago to ward off the physical chaos of their era, what digital good luck charms are we burying today? What quirky comments in our code, what hidden Easter eggs inside our algorithms, what digital monuments are we quietly weaving into our data architectures right now that the digital archaeologists of the year 3626 are going to unearth?
Wow.
When they dig through the fossilized remains of our fiber optic networks and our AI training models, will they realize that underneath all the tech wars and the cyber threats, we were all just humans looking for a little luck in the noise?
That is a brilliant question to sit with as we look at our own digital footprints.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. Stay informed, stay curious, and remember, no matter how loud the headlines get, there is always something out there worth smiling about. We will catch you next time.